So we're so thrilled to bring this next guest to the Rail Talk studio. He is the general manager of Monmouth Park, very near and dear to our hearts on this show. John Heims, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, so glad to have you. It is Haskell Week, and it's obviously a big point of pride for everybody at Monmouth and everybody in Jersey. I could ask John Green this question too, but I'd love to ask you this as someone who's lived this for several decades now at Monmouth Park. Can you just talk a little bit about the pride that people take at Monmouth and in Jersey and on the shore in general about Haskell Day and what that means to the community?
We do. I mean, we usually see 40,000 people, give or take a few thousand. It's targeted on everybody's calendar. And the beauty of what's been happening over the last few years, and it's a great credit to the marketing department, the amount of young people that show up for this day. It's one of those like the fear of missing out, the FOMO. I have to be here because all my friends are there. They dress the part. They actually do bet if you want. I mean, some people are, these kids don't have any money. Untrue. They do come out, they play, they dress, and they have such a good time. And I mean, it goes not just from the picnic area where there's so many of them. It goes all the way up to the partiers where everybody almost at that age level is just trying to get a better spot or trying to outdo their friend to say, oh, I'm sitting here or something to that effect. But I mean, that's just the young group. Everybody here at Monmouth Park, we take such pride in this race that we put on. We take such pride in the fact that we work so hard, not just for this one day, but for the 50-day meet and everything. I mean, my whole attitude has always been, I never want anybody to leave here and not say that this is the best track they've ever been to and that everybody at Monmouth Park treated them better than any other racetrack in this country.
Yep. And John, it doesn't just end with the Haskell. I mean, you have a full slate of races running that day. You've been able to recruit some of the biggest outfits in the country to come in and enter not only in the Haskell, but in some of what I'll call the undercard races. What's in the recruiting process as far as, how you get horses to come in, between the Haskell and the matchmaker and the United Nations? What's that process like?
For that, it starts really, I mean, we usually put our first condition book out in January. We're pretty early on that, but there is a recruiting process. I mean, myself and others, we actually go to many of the other racetracks across the country, Oaklawn Fairgrounds, Tampa, Gulfstream, other places. And it's not just shooting for getting people to be here and stabling all year long, just letting them know what we offer and what we have. And you throw the stakes at them and things of that nature. What we started last year and piggyback off of some other racetracks, what they had done, we offer a trainer challenge and a nice bonus program. So there's $150,000 up for grabs on Friday. And it's not just some of those tracks do it just for the stakes races. We do not. We want the locals to be involved in the guys that support us all year. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Every race carries points. And at the end of Sunday, highest point getters, the trainer will get $75,000. So wow. By way of example, last year, Pat McBurney finished third. He got a check for $20,000. I mean, he's a local guy that's been here forever. He ran enough horses, accumulated enough points. And it was probably the best one that we got to give out because it's a local guy that actually not only participates all year long, but you're able to reward him for that participation. And so I think this overnight that you see now is the work of last year with the first time we did the bonus, but people now actually looking at this and say, well, not only are the races really good, the purses are really good, but you know what? There's extra incentive to be there. And so you get them an allowance racer and made them special. And that's what we really targeted for the overnight for Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep. And I got to give a major shout out to you guys and everybody at Monmouth because I always recommend people go there. I was there on Memorial Day weekend, and it was a Saturday. There wasn't like a huge card. I think the cliffhanger was the feature, and the rest of the card was mid-level claimers, a couple allowances. But there were like 12, 13,000 people there, and it reminds me a lot of Arlington Park. When I went to Arlington, it didn't have to be like a huge card of stakes races. People just showed up and came out. What do you guys do, like especially in like a crowded region where there's a lot of other options, a lot of other racetracks, there's Atlantic City around the corner? What do you guys do specifically to get these crowds to come out every weekend?
Well, I think it's one of those, I mean, we only race 50 days, so you're limited opportunities. The Jersey Shore, I mean, a lot of that early crowd is dependent on beach. If it's a bad beach day, they come here. They need something else to do when they rented a house for the week. You get a lot of those people that come down for that. Other than that, though, there's also just this core group of people that say, I want to be there. I mean, so many of them are here every day, but I just want to be there, especially the weekends. I mean, that's what they plan a lot of their summer around. And we are probably one of the highest attended tracks in the country. And like you said, yeah. Arlington was one. Obviously, Del Mar is one. I mean, there's just those certain places that people ensure that they're going to be at. I mean, there's other tracks where they get no crowd and they rely on simulcast handle. We're not in that crowd. The simulcast handle is great. I get that. But when you're getting 20-cent dollars on track, the more people that show up, whether it's picnic area people with a per capita is probably $30 or high-end players, it all washes out in the end. And the more people exposed to the sport and to Monmouth Park are the ones that you're building a future with. And so that's our whole intent there.
Right. Right. And John, I think you're one of the few individuals that actually has been at Monmouth longer than I have. So how did that process come about?
Why do you look so much better than John
Yeah,
Green?
there's no question about that. Exactly. But how did you end up at Monmouth? Because you had a private practice, right? You're an attorney by trade.
I am, but actually I did that after. So I got my undergrad at Clemson, went to grad school at the University of Kentucky, and in Kentucky, and I always liked horse racing. I came here since I was a kid. And I was like, I was going to get a PhD in economics. And I said, yeah, I mean, I'm almost boring myself mentioning it. So it's like, this can't go on. So Louisville and Arizona had the 2 racetrack programs, and I knew nobody in horse racing. And so I got into both. And Louisville, I was able to get in-state tuition because I established residency. And it's a 1-year program that's postgraduate. It cost me $1,000 a semester to get that degree.
Right.
And that summer, I looked to intern here at Monmouth Park, and they didn't hire me. And so I got hired at Atlantic City Racecourse and commuted. I did at the time live in Seagirt. So it's an hour and 10 minutes each way. So I commuted for the summer and did that. And the next year, Monmouth Park hired me, and I've never left. And then in the interim, while I was here, I mean, you saw what was happening in racing and racetracks across the country. I said, I better find a pretty good backup just in case. So law school became my default and backup. So I commuted from here all the way to Delaware for 3.5 years and did that. And in the middle of that, my first child was born. So that added a little more work to it. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you turned out okay.
Things are all right. I do have a private practice, not that I'm plugging anything, but it's in Toms River. And hopefully none of them are listening, but I have a very select list of clients that are wonderful people that just maybe 2 handfuls, maybe a little more on a regular basis. So it's easy to manage that and this.
Yeah, that's excellent. I had a question about the operation of Monmouth relative to the other tracks in the area. This is something that we hear about a lot, about how crowded like the Mid-Atlantic and that Mid-Atlantic shore area is. We got Delaware running right now. We got Parks running right now. A little further south, we have Colonial running. Has there ever been, or do you expect there to be, any discussions amongst those tracks about coming up with one circuit? Like, you guys are less affected because you have that 50-day signature summer meet, but has there ever been any discussions about working together on a schedule?
There has. We've talked with most of the tracks in the region at some point to come up with something. It's one of those where everybody's fighting for the same horse, and you're fighting for a foal crop that's down to, I believe, 18.5 was the number I heard. I mean, right. What used to be 40 is 18.5. So you're fighting for the same number of horses that they are. I mean, we're in the unique position in that every track surrounding us, in my understanding, you'd probably have to go all the way to Texas before you find another association or another racetrack that doesn't have casino fuel purses. And we do not. And so we have a harder fight than most places in terms of generating purse money and things of that nature. We've been very fortunate with the state, who supplemented us to $10 million a year for the last 7 years, I believe we're up to now. And so that's a help and a shot in the arm. But I think if we were to get a casino, I don't know if, like you asked about the discussion, I would imagine our purses would be through the roof, and the discussion wouldn't necessarily be any longer with the Mid-Atlantic, only because I think we'd be on a much higher playing field. Our discussion would be more of a New York level and purses that are almost equivalent to that. Right. So it would be it would be a game changer for us. Right. And I know there's been legislation introduced in the state for another ballot measure on expansion of casinos, to which includes Monmouth Park. So in 2026, if we're fortunate enough and the voters decide that Atlantic City is no longer the monopoly for New Jersey, you'll see a whole new Monmouth Park coming forward.
Amazing.
Yep. Fantastic. That would be a shot in the arm, and deservedly so. John, I'm going to ask you a question about HISA and how it impacts, racing at Monmouth Park and also, kind of globally throughout the industry. How has it helped or hurt the horsemen in New Jersey?
I would say for the horsemen in New Jersey, I'd say rather neutral in terms of the cost of HISA is what it is. I know when they did their reformulation, certain tracks paid less, certain tracks paid a lot more. We've always been right in that middle because we race the 50 days and the first level is what it is. In terms of everything else, other than the paperwork that goes in with it, I would say for the horse itself, it's probably been quite helpful in terms of you have different mechanisms and things that come together that protect the horse that sometimes maybe have been lost when it was different state to state to state, all making different decisions. I think now that's probably a little bit better. And I mean, overall, to me, HISA has been very good in terms of horse racing in general to try to change the narrative. It seemed almost inevitable that there was going to be some form of nationalization and some form of uniformity within the industry. And it finally came together through HISA. And to me, it's not one of those, this is a hard and fast rule. They're willing to mold and say, okay, this works, this doesn't work, and you go forward with this. The one issue that I would take with HISA is sometimes they do make these rules, and the rules are not you can't cookie cut a rule from Arizona to New Jersey. It's not the same jurisdiction. Heat index, things of that nature are not the same from Arizona to New Jersey as they would be to Minnesota or other places. And so cookie cut rules aren't necessarily the answer. And I think it probably is better on their end if they issue some things known as best practices rather than just go through a hard and fast rule. And I think that would benefit them and all the stakeholders going forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. This may be a stupid question. You might have to explain it to me like I'm 5 years old. We do have the sports book on site at Monmouth. How much of a boon is that to purses? Are those two intertwined? Because I know that the casino gaming revenue would be the big thing to buttress all of your purse accounts and all that. How much does the sports book contribute, and why would the casino revenue be so much greater?
Well, the casino revenue, it's foot traffic, first of all. Obviously, casinos, for us in New Jersey, if you want to gamble, you have to go all the way to Atlantic City. You have to cross the borders otherwise and go to somewhere in Pennsylvania or New York. And so if Atlantic City is a monopoly and you have to go that far, if I live in northern New Jersey or central New Jersey and I have options, what's the point of driving all the way to Atlantic City? And in addition to that, now you have online gaming, so you can just do it from your phone if you're that interested or that's the way you want to go. I would think the foot traffic and in particular, the summer alone, with the number of people in this area, that's where the boom would come. For sports betting, there were two ways that case could have came down from the Supreme Court. One would have been we were almost a monopoly until other states came on board, so we would have had a huge advantage going forward. What happened was the case was decided and every state then had an opportunity to go ahead and pass legislation and say that we allow sports betting, and I think we're up to, I'm ballparking this number, somewhere in the 30s. It's a very large number of states that allow sports betting. That case, going back when it was filed, I mean, Dennis Drazen was the only one who, without a question in my mind, he's the only one who said, keep fighting, keep fighting. I mean, spending millions and millions of dollars. And Ron Riccia, who was the dean of the Seton Hall Law School, who's a big he likes horse racing and is a good friend of Dennis's. He's the one, this is how you're going to win this case. And he was 100% spot on. And I remember when we got what's known as the writ of certiorari from the Supreme Court that they're actually going to finally hear this case. I couldn't believe that they were going to hear it finally. I mean, that's the odds of getting a writ of certiorari are almost impossible. And so when we knew they were going to hear it, we were very confident going forward of things that we were going to do and the amount of revenue that was going to come from this. It just depended on the way it came down. And so to answer your question, it's been about $6 million a year we've been able to generate off of sports betting here just at Monmouth Park and with the skins that we have.
Right.
Nice.
Right. Fantastic. John, my last question is, we go out to the average fan and the industry insider. What would you say to our audience as far as if you come to Monmouth Park, you need to do blank, fill in the blank? What would that be?
That's a real interesting one because it's such a diverse group of individuals that come here. You start in the picnic area where everybody just brings in a cooler or something to that effect, and we don't bring in beer, wine, soda. That's fine. Bring in sandwiches, whatever you want. The picnic area is one animal. Then you can take that all the way up through the parterres where you have the highest end individuals that are sitting there with most. We've relaxed it quite a bit now, but what used to be a dress code or things of that. And it can filter all the way through the entire facility. I would say our paddock is one of the places you definitely have to see. It's a beautiful English walking ring. I'm overlooking it right now as I say it. Although there is one tree that's in pretty bad shape that'll probably be replaced next year. So, and when you come, I mean, a lot of people don't even realize those trees were planted by Mrs. Haskell as a World War II remembrance when they opened the facility. And one of them that just died. There were 6 originals. We now have to replace 2. So there are 4 originals that remain from 1946. And it's a beautiful paddock. The other spots, obviously, if you're not in the picnic area, at least take a walk through and realize the number of people that come to there. You can literally, the Northeast coastline on the train, it goes from Bayhead all the way to New York City. You can take a train from any of the stops along the way, take your cooler off the train, walk, it's about a half mile, and you're in the picnic area. Walk right back to the train and you're back home. It's a very unique way that you can get to this facility and enjoy that area. The Lady Secret Cafe is another one, also overlooking that right now, but a beautiful view of that walking ring. And if you want to go more higher end, the parterres are very unique. They were based off of the opera box style from Longchamp in Paris, from the old Longchamp. And that's what they're based off. And they're very, very popular. And it's the highest end you can get here at Monmouth.
Yep.
Just two things I would add, and this is because I'm always interested in the bar, but that bar area on the second floor that overlooks the track, that like outdoor bar,
Right.
love posting up there with a cold one. I think that's a really great spot. And also playing the summer wind at the end of the card is one of my favorite traditions in all of racing. And just as everybody kind of slowly filters out and you feel that ocean breeze, it's heavenly. And then, so just one last question before we let you go. You mentioned off the air that there's going to be a little bit of a change to the wagering, to one of the wagers in terms of when you can pay it out. Tell the audience about that.
That's going to be this Sunday. We finally, as I was saying to you guys before, it took a year and a half. Rulemaking in New Jersey is very slow. So the rule had read that you can only pay out any jackpot numbers on the very last day of the season. So I made a rule application. It went through the entire process. It was finally approved in May of this year, whereby by notice to the Racing Commission and with reason, you can pay out a pick six, which is what we're utilizing here, on a specified date. So we are paying out a mandatory pick six on Sunday, the day after the Haskell. Last 6 races on the program. If nobody hits at Haskell, they anticipate there'll be at least a pool of 50,000 or so. For us right now, we were hoping it was going to be a lot bigger, but somebody scooped it about a week and a half ago. So it's not going to be as high, but nonetheless, we'll do this as an experiment and hope to see what it generates, and then realize in the future, if we want to, we can select certain days throughout the season and just say, rather than have somebody scoop it on a Friday in a small pool, I mean, the benefit is to not only the player to get them interested in the card, but the benefit to us, obviously, we handle that will come with it.
Yep.
So that's one. The other additions on Haskell Day, which we've added this year, we're going to have 5 pick 5s. We used to do 3s. It'll be a pick 5. That's the play that everybody likes anymore. So the pick 5 is like the big bet. So we have 5 of those on the card. We have added 2 pick 4s in addition to that, which start the race after the pick 5. If you get knocked out in the pick 5, you can always come back in the pick 4. And then on top of that, we have some some guaranteed pools. We have an all stakes pick 4 that ends in the Haskell, and it's a pretty solid all stakes pick 4 that goes with the Wolf Hill, which has 9. The Molly Pitcher has 9. The UN has 12, and then the Haskell with 8. So it's a very solid sequence. So that should be pretty exciting to see. But those are the new wagers of the things that we're going to do on the card for this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's great. It's been a big help to Gulfstream, I think, when they were able to just pay out the pick 6, whenever they decide to. So I'm happy for you guys with that. And it's also, you guys have very competitive takeout rates: 15% pick 4, 15% pick 5. It's a great day of racing on Saturday. If you're at all in the area, you don't have anything to do, or if you haven't been to Monmouth before, highly suggest you go down to Monmouth for Haskell Day. It's, like I said, it's near and dear to our hearts. And John Heims, thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for taking such good care of our beloved Monmouth.
I appreciate that. Thanks, guys.